How are you doing? I know everyone is excited to learn about argumentations, especially like us who have been learning English as a second language and bringing this language in a particular productive and healthy argumentation. Let's get it on. First up is perhaps everyone is still asking what argumentation is. When we say argumentation, it's the process of developing or presenting an argument or reasoning. So whatever the topic, it could be related to economics, politics, law, constitution, business, then you have to give your reason or argumentative statement productively, right? So let's continue. Let's focus on again what is an argument, what are those strategies and elements during the argumentation. Okay, first off is what is an argument? When we say argument, it's a logical and philosophical series of statements which intends to determine the degree of truth or of another statement. So, which means that whatever topics you are going to argue, then you have to stand, you have to give your logical and philosophical judgment and statement, right? To make that statement favorable on your part, right? So, there are also strategies to be used during the argumentation. And these are the argumentative strategies. One is the ethos, second is the pathos, third is the logos. So when say ethos, during your argumentation, you really want, no, you want to convince the audience, the listeners, via the authority or credibility, meaning your stand as a student, as a politician, as a leader, as an educator, as an instructor, whoever or whatever your stand is, then you have to convince your audience, your listeners, right? And also during the argumentation, you might be using your emotion, meaning that is the pathos, which appeals to emotions. You want to convince, you want to touch the people's emotions. You want them to be persuaded with your argumentative speech or argumentative statements during the argumentation. Exactly, you're right. Right? And the third thing is, of course, during the argumentation, there is logos, or the logic, which appeals using facts, figures, information, or analogies. So during your argumentative speech, during your opening speech, during your argumentative statement, and during your final speech, you have to stand still by showing some facts, figures, information, or analogies to convince, right, the audience or the listeners, so that at the end of the argumentation, things are honestly favorable on your part, right? And then, of course, during the process of argumentation, you have to consider these elements. The first one is the statement of argument. When I say statement of argument, if ever the topic is related to education, related to business, related to economics or politics, then what is your statement of argument? Right? Are you on the affirmative? Are you favorable on that side? Are you not favorable on that side? Then you have to state clearly your argument. Exactly. Okay, and then the second one is because you are on the affirmative or favorable side, or it could also be unfavorable on the issue, then you have to show some shred of evidence. And that is what evidence for the argument. What are your possible, right, reasons why you are favorable and why you are unfavorable? Exactly. And the third thing here is the explanation of the argument. So you have to prove, you have to reveal, okay, your side and your whatever things you have learned in able to convince, to persuade the listeners. Exactly. Right? So let's have some tips in giving a good argument. Okay, so you can see here some people, some students perhaps in the argumentation. And of course, in a given topic, let's take this. There are some students who are on the affirmative, on affirming side. Okay, and then also there are students on the negative side, right? So let's take a look on this common topic. Okay, I hope this is really common to everyone, the online distance learning. So when we say affirmation, it's the assertion that something exists or is true. Exactly. So meaning some students are into online distance learning for some reason. So let's find out after this. Okay, and then also some students will stand on the negative side, or they are negating on the issue about online distance learning. So when we say negation, is an act of denying or opposing to something. So meaning some students and some people are not into online distance learning. Right. Okay. So, of course, you have to make use, since it's still formal, especially in a classroom base and an online, perhaps, argumentation, then you need to make use of some signal words or common phrases, of course, in English, for for us and for you to know if you are clearly favorable on that particular issue given or unfavorable on the issue. So these are some signal words on affirmative sides, such as in addition, agreeably, favorably. So you have to clearly somehow start that way to clearly state your argument, right? And especially in the argumentative statement, in presenting your evidence. And at the same time, in the explanation or in explaining your stand, why you are favorable, why you are adding something, what are those information or facts to be added, right? And then, of course, in a negating side, there are also some signal words to clearly, right, modify and know your stand as a person or speaker opposing on something. And these are the common English phrases or words to be used during your negative statement articulations, such as in contrary, right? I am, right, disagreeable, I am unfavorable. So these signal words will help you to clearly stand your side, to give your side as a speaker. Okay, let's give an example. Let's take as if there is really an ongoing argumentation on the online distance learning, and as if you are on the affirming side. So ideally, this is just an ideal statement when you give your affirmative statement. So may I read? I am favorable in online distance learning since we have ample time to research in the internet. So meaning this might be a possible affirmative statement to be articulated on why you are on the online distance learning, isn't it? And then of course, some students might be saying, or a particular student might say on the negative statement or negating side, I beg to disagree in the online distance learning because most students have no access to internet. So exactly, meaning it's opposing to what is being, what has been stated, okay, by a particular speaker. Exactly. And of course, since you have to emphasize, you have to convince, you have to persuade your listeners, the other speakers at the same time to be convinced with your thoughts, with your ideologies, with your ideas, then of course, do not forget that when you talk, when you give your argumentative statement, you have to make use of those argumentative strategies to let you be reminded of how powerful all your argumentative statements during the argumentation. Let's take a look on this affirmative statement. So it's obvious that an argumentative strategy here is observed, is pathos, meaning touching exactly the emotion, not just of the speaker, and at the same time to the listeners or of the listeners. Example here, as stated, I am favorable in the online distance learning, meaning you are convincing, honestly, you are really touching your personal emotion and the emotion of your audience that you are into online distance learning, right? And another strategy here observe is the logos, right? When I say logos here, right? So some authority, your credibility as a student, perhaps as a writer, as an internet user, as a student of online distance learning. So you are saying here that we have ample time to research using or in the internet, meaning with your authority because you have experienced it and you need others also to believe, right? That with the presence of internet, then you can go, you can research, you can discover, you can easily perform the given task online. Exactly. Of course, since this is an argumentation, there are times that some students are into the negative statement, right? So a argumentative strategy here observed is also a pathos, right? Stating that I beg to disagree in the online distance learning. So that is also this thing, you know, the emotion is there, trying to get the emotion of the audience, the listeners at the same time. Why a speaker, right, is begging, no, is trying to present a very unfavorable statement. And it's obvious that on a negative statement, there is an ethos here, which states students have no access to internet, meaning proving a particular, if not just figure, an information that most of the students, right, especially who are into supposedly online distance learning cannot access because of some unstable internet connection, some issues about internet connection, right? So the speaker here is saying that students have no access to internet. So why insisting, why strengthening the online distance learning? Okay, so I hope you're learning something today. Thank you for watching. I'm Teacher Ramil. Do not forget to watch and subscribe my channel. I hope you learned something new today. Good day, everyone.